Okay, so I want to talk about something today that just feels, well, it feels really weird. It's that quiet that hits you right after a big laugh, you know, like a really good shared moment of joy. You feel amazing, so light, and then almost right away, there's this pullback, a tightness.
Ah, yes, that tightening in the chest, like suddenly you owe something.
Exactly. It's like I catch myself smiling too big and this little voice inside goes, hang on, how dare you be happy right now?
Yeah.
Especially when, you look around, the world feels heavy or you got your own stuff going on. Why does feeling good feel wrong, like you're trespassing?
It's such a common feeling, and that voice, well, it's loud because it's usually not your voice, not your present wisdom anyway. It's more like an echo from the conditioned mind.
Oh.
Old beliefs whispering that, being serious is somehow more worthy, that pain is the entrance fee for life, and joy is, well, maybe a bit irresponsible unless you've paid your dues in suffering first.
Wow. So we've sort of absorbed this idea that being truly aware means we have to carry all the weight all the time.
That seems to be the conflict, yes. And maybe today our sort of mission here is to dig into that guilt. Why do we instinctively apologize for happiness? Is that feeling actually wisdom, a sign of connection? Or is it maybe a subtle way we betray ourselves, stopping us from really living?
Okay, let's unpack that. This idea you mentioned, emotions is energy, not like moral points on a scoreboard.
Right. If you look at it from a mindfulness angle, emotions aren't really judgments. They're just, well, energy moving. Vedana, that's the classical term. Sensations, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. They're just messengers popping up when our mind makes contact with the world. Joy is just as valid a message as sadness is.
But the ego, that sense of me, it definitely seems invested in blocking certain messages. Why is it so scared of joy? What story is it trying to protect?
Well, the ego loves having a role, doesn't it? It needs definition.
Yeah.
And for a lot of us, that role gets built around being responsible, struggling through things. I'm the serious one. I'm the one holding it together. I carry the weight. And pure, unguarded joy, it kind of threatens that whole identity. Because if you just let joy be there, it suggests something radical.
That's it.
That maybe you're not defined by the weight you carry. Maybe it wasn't all yours to carry alone in the first place.
Huh. Okay, wait. I like that. So the guilt isn't really about ignoring the world's problems. It's more about being afraid we'll lose our job as the struggler.
That's a really insightful way to put it. The ego fears becoming redundant. It fears just being is enough. Think about the lotus flower analogy. It grows in muddy water, right? The mud, the difficulty, it's real, no denying that. But the lotus doesn't say, oh, the water's too murky, it better not bloom today. It doesn't feel bad about being beautiful.
It uses the mud. It's part of the whole thing.
Exactly. Its beauty is the transformation, not a denial of the dark water. But we get caught thinking we have to choose, either be aware or be joyful, numbness or lightness. And this connects to mudita sympathetic joy, the genuine capacity to feel happy for someone else's good fortune.
Oh, that's tough. Especially now with social media everywhere, seeing someone else's huge success. Honestly, my first reaction is often comparison, maybe a little envy.
Yeah.
Not pure joy for them. How does denying my own joy make that harder?
Well, think about it. If you treat your own happiness like it's this rare commodity you haven't quite earned yet, then you naturally start seeing happiness everywhere as scarce. Like there's only so much to go around. You can't genuinely celebrate someone else's win if deep down you believe, well, neither of us really deserves to feel this good yet. Denying your own joy feeds that scarcity mindset.
Right. And that scarcity idea feeds right into feeling like happiness has to be earned, like you said, paid for, through grinding, through sacrifice. It's like keeping this big emotional spreadsheet where joy is only allowed after enough suffering points are logged.
That's a perfect picture of what I call the ego's economy of suffering. It's a system where your value, your worth, feels tied to how much you endure, how hard you strive. And spontaneous joy, it messes up the whole system. Because if you can feel joy right now, for no good reason, it kind of pulls the rug out from under the need to constantly perform that role of the martyr, the one always waiting for conditions to be perfect before allowing ease.
And since conditions are basically never perfect,
Yeah.
we just keep waiting. The debt never gets paid off.
Exactly. But there's this other possibility highlighted in wisdom traditions, Pamoja. It's like unconditional happiness. It doesn't arise because things are perfect outside. It bubbles up from inside when we simply release that tight grip, that clinging. The mind can actually generate this lightness like a natural spring, regardless of the weather.
But if it just bubbles up,
Yeah.
it feels like cheating.
Yeah.
Like you didn't work for it. So the ego isn't just attached to the pain, it's attached to the whole dramatic story about the struggle.
Precisely. That attachment to the narrative, the story, is called upadana. It's clinging not just to things, but to views, roles, our sense of self. Struggle gives the ego a clear role: hero, victim, survivor. But joy, especially unearned joy, it doesn't require a role, it just is. And maybe that's why shame pops up when we touch it. It feels like we've walked off script, realizing the play wasn't mandatory after all.
That really makes me think about how often I actually do push down lighter feelings. I'll catch myself laughing really hard about something silly, and then almost immediately I'll bring up something serious, some world problem.
Yeah.
Like I need to correct the balance.
Right.
Because I'm afraid of looking, I don't know, naive, out of touch.
And that tendency, using our awareness of suffering as a reason not to feel joy, I sometimes think of it as spiritual bypassing in reverse. You know, regular spiritual bypassing uses spiritual ideas to avoid feeling difficult things. This reverse kind uses difficult things the world's suffering to kind of cage or shut down joy. Either way, awareness is being used to control the experience, not just witness it. Real mindfulness, Sadi, wouldn't tell you to suppress the joy. It would invite you to gently investigate. Why do I feel this urge to shut this down? What am I trying to protect here?
Okay, so if mindfulness is about observing all the feelings without judging them, how do we actually use that to break this guilt habit? It feels so automatic.
Mindfulness disrupts that automatic habit by shedding light on it, not by fighting it directly. The basic instruction is just to notice. Notice the joy, the pleasant feeling. Then notice the guilt or shame that might follow. Don't wrestle with the shame. Just acknowledge it's there. Maybe label it gently in your mind. Shame feeling. Notice the tightness it brings. When you stop mentally labeling the joy as bad or irresponsible and just see it as pleasant feeling and the shame as unpleasant feeling, it starts to lose its power. It becomes just another wave passing through, not a command you have to obey.
That shift in perspective, it feels like it would actually make us more resilient when the genuinely difficult stuff comes along too.
Exactly right. And this is where modern science is catching up in fascinating ways. Joy isn't the opposite of facing suffering. It's actually an antidote to the mind getting stuck. Chronic stress, constant worry, it physically narrows our focus. Puts us in survival mode, very rigid. But genuine delight, even small moments of it, activates the prefrontal cortex. That's the part of the brain for perspective, flexibility, connection. So joy doesn't make us less caring. It actually makes us more resourceful, more able to respond wisely to suffering because our view isn't so tunnel visioned.
It opens things up so we can actually respond, not just react out of fear or contraction.
Precisely. Think of that candle in a dark room again. Does the candle apologize for shining? Does it dim itself because the darkness is so vast? No, it just burns. And by burning, it shows what's actually in the room. Your joy can be like that candle. It refuses to be swallowed by the darkness, and in doing so, it might just help others see a possibility they'd forgotten.
That feels like a really radical kind of presence, letting joy be fully felt without making excuses for it. It sounds like the most honest thing, actually.
It really is a profound honesty. It's saying, okay, I'm alive right now, in this moment, and I'm not going to postpone feeling fully human until some imaginary perfect future finally shows up. So the path forward involves making friends with that part of you, the ego, that brings up the shame. You don't fight the inner critic. You notice it with kindness. Recognize it's trying to protect you, probably based on old experiences, trying to keep you safe from judgment or perceived failure.
So when the shame comes up after a moment of lightness, we turn towards it gently.
And ask that question, hey, what are you afraid would happen if I just let this joy be here? Often the answer is tied to an old pattern, maybe a childhood memory, where being quiet or serious felt safer than being too loud, too happy, too much. But those were old strategies. They aren't necessarily the truth of who you are now. Every time you allow joy without that internal apology, you weaken the belief that happiness has to be constantly justified or earned through struggle.
This feels much less like self-indulgence and much more like, well, spiritual freedom.
It's absolutely about freedom, which is why joy isn't just a nice feeling. It's considered a key sign of progress in many contemplative paths. In the classic texts, piti, which is often translated as rapture or joyful interest, is listed as one of the essential factors of enlightenment. This joy isn't about ignoring reality. It comes from realizing that the source of your own inner light isn't dependent on everything outside being perfect.
So choosing joy, even in small ways, is kind of a quiet act of rebellion.
I think it is, yes. In a world that often seems to thrive on our anxiety, our guilt, our constant busyness, choosing unearned joy is countercultural. When you choose it, you're implicitly refusing to buy into the story that your worth comes only from your productivity or your visible suffering.
It feels like giving ourselves permission. Permission to feel good without needing to fix everything or ourselves first.
Exactly. We don't have to earn joy through more pain. We just need the willingness to be present for it when it arises, however fleetingly. Joy isn't a betrayal of seriousness or awareness. Maybe it's more like remembering something essential, like the soul just whispering, hey, you're still here. And that, right now, is enough.
Yeah.
So perhaps the thought to sit with is this. What if the most spiritually honest thing you could do today is just allow yourself to feel happy, without needing a big reason, without waiting for permission, without that layer of shame? And what if, just by doing that, you subtly give permission to others around you too? What small, perhaps seemingly insignificant joy have you been pushing away lately? And what might shift if you finally simply said yes to it?